Well, our complaint alleges that as of late 2006, executives at S&P began hearing alarm bells about subprime residential mortgage-backed securities, as S&P's internal information revealed that borrower delinquencies in subprime mortgages were rising dramatically, leading the financial instruments that were based on these mortgages to perform far worse than their S&P ratings suggested that they should perform. And by early 2007, S&P's own analysts had come to believe that the mortgage-backed securities, many of the mortgage-backed securities, were in trouble. They began recommending that the company start the process of lowering the credit ratings for hundreds of subprime mortgage bonds that S&P had previously rated. But S&P's business executives rejected those downgrade recommendations, choosing instead to continue rating subprime mortgage bonds for their bank clients whose appetite for highly rated mortgage-backed securities continued to grow. And by March 2007, we allege that S&P knew that mortgage-backed securities were in such deep trouble that unprecedented downgrades were inevitable. It wasn't a matter of if, but when. Of course, such downgrades meant that the value of subprime mortgage bonds on the books of some of S&P's most significant bank clients would be dramatically reduced. So to avoid the significant financial hit such downgrades would have caused, these banks packaged those subprime mortgage bonds into CDOs and sold them to investors as a way to get those bonds off of their books. And we have evidence that S&P not only knew this is what the banks were doing, S&P helped them to do it. As our complaint explains, through the spring and summer of 2007, S&P moved at a record pace, rating hundreds of billions of dollars worth of CDOs packed with subprime mortgage bonds. Yet throughout this period, S&P made no adjustments in issuing these ratings. In fact, S&P gave AAA ratings to nearly all of the CDOs it rated during this time period. And they did this despite their own internal information showing that the ratings on the mortgage bonds on which the financial quality of these CDOs depended would not hold. Even after S&P executives chose the date on which to inform the public of their plan to institute mass downgrades, S&P continued to issue ratings on CDOs as if nothing had changed. On July 11, 2007, just one day before S&P publicly announced the downgrades, an internal S&P email to executives warned, quote, CDO deals that close now will be downgraded if we don't stop them. Yet on that very day, S&P rated 2 new CDOs backed by subprime bonds. In fact, S&P gave them AAA ratings, making no rating adjustments to the downgrades for the downgrades that S&P knew were inevitable and were coming. And in July 2007, S&P issued the mass downgrades it had known for months were inevitable. Soon after, credit markets in the United States and around the world collapsed. Nearly every CDO that S&P rated between March and October 2007 defaulted, and the ratings were downgraded to junk. And the failure of those CDOs led to billions of dollars in losses to federally insured financial institutions and to other investors.